Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at a Husqvarna 125L string trimmer. Customer complaint is that it won't start. I think I know why it won't start. It's got old fuel in it. And when I say old, this stuff has got a special stench to it.
Jimmy, you want to smell something?
How come it is whenever you got something that smells really bad, you always offer your coworkers a whiff? So anyway, the next step on this repair is going to be looking in the cylinder. I mean, we know that the thing needs a fuel system overhaul, but we're not going to do anything like that if, the cylinder is scored. Spark plug looks decent. We'll look inside and see what there is to see. We get the piston down to the bottom of the stroke so we can look at the exhaust port side of the cylinder, usually above the port. Inspection camera shows that there is some weird rusty streaks. And I don't think it's rust. I think it's varnished fuel. But it's not scored. It's just neglected. So we check our compression. It looked like we're at about 130 pounds. Considering what the cylinder looked like, I'd say that was alright. We've got a nice decent hot blue spark on our tester at a 6mm gap. We got a nasty air filter that's going to have to get replaced. So let's pull this carburetor off of here. There are just two screws, 8mm nuts actually, that hold the air box in place. And the carburetor is loose right now. So we want to blow all this debris away before we separate it from the intake so nothing drops inside the engine. There's going to be fuel lines and a throttle cable, right? These fuel lines happen to be preformed. And hopefully they're in good shape so we don't have to spend extra money on preformed lines. Our metering diaphragm is pretty stiff. And that was probably the bulk of the problem why I didn't want to run for them. I shouldn't say the bulk of the problem. That nasty fuel was the bulk of the problem. This is just the other half of the problem. So I don't always run the carbs through the ultrasonic cleaner. If you watch these videos, you'll know a lot of times that if I think the equipment is got fresh fuel in it and it could maybe run a little bit, then I just put a carb kit in them. In this case, we're going to boil it out. So as it turns out, the other side of the shop is actually left the ultrasonic cleaner with some fresh fluid in it. Usually it looks like the bottom of a tar pit in there. Them filthy, disgusting 4-stroke engines with their nasty bath water. They're always making a mess of that ultrasonic cleaner. But this time they must have cleaned it out. But it's still, I put my carburetors in a jar with fuel. And then whatever stinky water is in that ultrasonic cleaner doesn't matter. Because the cleaner will work through the glass jar. That's what I'm getting at here. So it looks like our fuel lines aren't rotten, but our filter sure is plugged up. So we're just going to put a new filter on this line and drop it back in the tank. But the tank is really nasty, so we'll clean that out. I wonder how long this thing was sitting. You know, that staining in the cylinder and this nasty fuel tank and the smell of that fuel. I don't think this ran last year. It may have run the year prior, but maybe not. So we'll get that all cleaned out real nice. And then we'll take that pan of gasoline that really smelled bad, and we'll walk it over to the other side of the shop, and we'll hide it under one of the guys' toolboxes or something like that. So it's going to stink over there for probably a week before they find it. I mean, that's what I've heard other people do anyway. So here's our fresh, clean carburetor. We're just going to blow it out. Now be careful when you're blowing out these carburetors. Sure, there's a lot of holes and passages, but you've got things like check valves in there, and you don't want to blow them to the point of wrecking them. So when I'm blowing it out, I'm pretty much just drying it off, not necessarily a lot of power going through all the small passages. You gotta kind of know which jet or hole or passage does what on a carburetor before you start putting a lot of pressure behind it. So this kit comes with a lot of different style gaskets on the pump side, but on the metering diaphragm side you usually only get one choice, sometimes two, for the style of diaphragm that you need. And usually the difference would be the shape of the diaphragm and the height of the pin in the center of the diaphragm that pushes on the metering lever. So if you've got more than one choice for metering diaphragms, take a look at that height of that contact point. Now here I laid out the different gaskets from the kit, and you could, spend time trying to match up two different gaskets, but you might not have the original gasket. It might have tore. But if you look close at the style of the gasket, there's usually an identifying notch or mark on it. You see the one in the middle there has that little diamond pointed mark on it. Well, that doesn't match the gasket that we took off of the carb, so it ain't that one. Some have a rounded edge, some have a square edge, some have a flat side. Take a look at that though next time you open up a kit that's got a bunch of different gaskets in there. There's some kind of identifying mark outside edge of the gasket that separates it from the other gaskets that look the same. No primer bulbs going on this one. I don't always do that, but in this case we'll put one on. Wipe the bulk of the schmutz off of that plate there. We'll get this screwed back together. I tell you what, this little $25 Amazon special screwdriver has been working out pretty good for me. Putting it back together is pretty simple. If you don't know which is the return line and which is the feed line from the filter, you can push on the primer bulb and see which way pushes air and which way sucks air. That'll tell you which line is going to be the return line or the feed line. Little Z bend in the end of the throttle cable. We'll drop that into the hole in the throttle linkage on the carburetor. There we go. And then we want to make sure that cable is routed. There's kind of a ramp that it rides on. I wiped down that piece before I put it on there. Look how much cleaner it is than the rest of that trimmer. Come on now. So we're going to put some fuel in here and give it a try. So that's all I'm going to have for you on the Husqvarna 125L string trimmer with the stinky fuel in it. Thanks for watching. Later. Rookie mistake. Let's get this spark plug screwed in here and try it again.